Brooklyn is one of the cities in the United States that has been controlled by mafia groups. Even the police can't do anything about it. The mafia committed so many crimes and made the city a place for money laundering. Every week, crime money from the mafia would be deposited from one bar to another. The bar workers had no idea about it all and were forced to keep their mouths closed and do what was told to them by the mafia. One of the bartenders was named Bob. Despite his common appearance, he once worked as a cold-blooded assassin. Now he often attended church to calm his mind and heart from all sins in the past that haunted him every time. One night when he came home from work, Bob found an injured dog in a trash can in front of someone's house. When he was about to look at it, the owner of the house named Nadia addressed him from the back door. Nadia suspected that Bob was going to rob her house, but after seeing the dog that he held and how serious the injuries were, Nadia asked for Bob's ID card and then invited him inside to take care of the dog's wounds. Just before they entered the house, someone was seen secretly spying on them from afar. Inside, Bob wondered why would someone use the back door instead of the front door. Nadia explained that she lived all by herself and worried that someone would rob her house, so she always locked the front door and never accepted any guests. Looking at the dog's wounds that looked like someone abused it with a rock, Nadia expected this to be its former owner's fault. She said that during the day she was busy with her job, so it was better for Bob to take care of it. Bob, who never had a dog before, hesitated and asked her to give him 2 days to think about whether he would adopt the dog or give it to an animal shelter. The next night at the back of the bar, Bob asked what Marv would think if he tried to adopt a dog pup. Hearing that, Marv replied that a once cold-blooded assassin was never a perfect match with a small dog. Both of them then continued their work, but amid working, suddenly 2 masked robbers appeared in front of him. Don't think about it, just feel it fill the bird. Fortunately, Bob oversaw one of the robbers' arms and saw a dead watch worn on it. After the 2 robbers left, Bob and Mark found the bar waiter lying badly injured. Marv then called an ambulance, and not long after, the police also appeared on the scene. When the police asked about the characteristics of the robbers, Bob explained that one of them was wearing a dead watch. The following morning at church, Bob kept thinking about the dog he found a couple of days ago. He finally decided to take care of it and went to Nadia's house because he couldn't calm down. That dog was named Rocco. Bob, who had no experience caring for dogs at all, asked Nadia to teach him at the pet shop. Nadia accompanied Bob to buy various necessities and made a necklace for Rocco. After returning from the pet shop, a man was spying on them again, just like that night when they found Rocco. At night, Marv was seen secretly meeting one of the masked robbers from yesterday. Apparently Marv was the one behind the robbery. He hired 2 criminals to rob his boss's bar due to gambling debts haunting him. Marv was furious with the robbers' their carelessness. Yesterday, beating the bar waiter badly caused him to call the ambulance and triggered the police visit. Mark then told the other robber to tell his friend to throw away his dead watch so the police wouldn't know their whereabouts. A week later, Bob and Marv were cleaning the back of the bar when they were cleaning the snow. The mob boss who owned the bar, named Shaka, came there all because of the news he heard about the robbery in the bar last week. He suddenly opened his van's back door and showed one of the grunts he tortured for betraying him. He then ordered them to get back all his money, no matter what. He didn't want to hear any reason or complain about it. The next day, when Bob was taking Rocco for a walk in the park, he met Nadia. She offered to take turns taking care of Rocco every time Bob was busy at work. Handed the offer, he happily accepted it. Before separating, they both exchanged cell phone numbers, and from that day, their relationship grew closer. Nadia often took the time to have lunch together and accompany Bob for a walk with Rocco almost every day. But that afternoon after Nadia came home, a mysterious man that was spying on them finally appeared and greeted Bob. The man was Eric. He looked at him technically, while complimenting his dog saying it was very cute, then immediately left. After returning home, suddenly someone knocked on Bob's door. Turned out the person knocking was Eric. Out of the blue, he said that Rocco was his dog. He even had Rocco's adoption certificate. He threatened that if Bob did not want to be reported to the police for kidnapping Rocco, he had to pay the sum of $10,000 within a week. Before leaving, Eric took Bob's umbrella while threatening that he could take Rocco whenever he wanted, just like what he did to the umbrella if Bob could not provide the money he asked for before next week. The next afternoon, when Bob and Marv were cleaning the trash, there was a suspicious plastic bag hanging on the fence. When checked, they were both shocked to see that the bag was filled with the same amount of money from the robbery last week and the dismembered hand of one of the robbers, complete with the dead watch on it. Confused, Marv ordered Bob to immediately get rid of the dismembered hand before the police found out. Inside, Bob looked confident dealing with such things a common person would not dare to deal with because of his background of being a former cold-blooded assassin. He didn't show any slightest hesitation. Wrap the dismembered hand in plastic. Just when he finished, Eric suddenly came to the bar and asked for something to drink. but Marv immediately kicked him out, saying the bar wasn't open yet. Luckily, Eric didn't see what Bob was doing in the back. After that, Mark told Bob to dump it in the harbor. He brought Rocco to avoid suspicion in the harbor. He checked around just to be safe and dumped the cut hand immediately when no one saw. Just when the hand drowned, the police who handled the bar robbery case days ago passed by and greeted him without the slightest suspicion. The policeman asked if Bob knows a man named Eric. Just now Eric was imprisoned for murdering people at the bar where Bob worked, but unfortunately he had to be released because the police lacked evidence. Getting no evidence, the police continued his investigation to another place. That night, Marv was seen meeting one of the robbers who was still alive. Marv offered a job to rob the bar again, but the robber refused. He didn't want to have a tragic death like his friend without him knowing, was murdered by Mark because he was afraid of Shaka's threat. Mark then explained that this time he had an idea to escape without Shaka finding out, but even though Marv had persuaded him, he still refused. Eventually, Marv had to kill him because he had heard of all the robbery plans to keep the plan secret and avoid leaking information after making sure that there were no witnesses. Marv ran away. The next day, Bob went to Nadia's house to leave Rocco before leaving for work. There, he told her that a few days ago, there was a man named Eric claiming to be the owner of Rocco. When she heard Eric's name, her expression changed. Bob kept asking the same questions about Eric until she got angry and went away. At the bar, he vented about Nadia. Bob asked Marv and other bar patrons about how to handle a sulking woman. Everyone laughed and said that there were no men that could handle women in a bad mood. Not long after, Chaka came to the bar and asked for his money that was robbed several days ago and told the bartenders that there would be a money laundering transaction in 2 days at the bar. When Bob returned home, Nadia was there waiting for Bob in front of the house. Bob invited her inside and that was when she explained everything. Eric was the ex-boyfriend that made her traumatized. To avoid a heartbreaking talk, he changed the topic and invited her for a drink to enjoy the night together. They talked about many things until dawn. Bob then took her home. Before leaving, she thanked Bob for the night even though it was just a casual chat. She thanked him for the heartwarming night. After years of being haunted by guilt, Bob finally was able to smile again, but when he returned home, he saw the umbrella that Eric took yesterday inside Rocco's cage. He was not aware that while taking Nadia, Eric must have secretly entered his house. The next morning, because he felt that Eric's actions had gone too far, Bob went to Eric's home, which he knew from Nadia. Eric said that he just wanted to give a warning that if he didn't pay until the due date, he would torture Rocco. Just like in the past, when Bob first found it in the trash, Eric seemed to not care about Rocco at all. His intention from the very beginning was just to blackmail Bob because he was jealous of seeing him together with his ex-girlfriend, whom he still loved, Nadia. While holding back his anger, Bob said he would pay the ransom at the bar the day after tomorrow. The next morning, Bob found out that Marv was sick and decided to give him a visit while sitting on a couch. Marv told him that he would need to take another day off the next day so he wouldn't be there to help Bob take care of the money laundering transactions at the bar. Bob was suspicious and asked if Mark still wanted to rob the money from the bar again. Turned out Bob already knew that Marv was the evil brain behind the robbery weeks ago and pretended not to know to keep away Marv from the trouble. This time he warned Marv to cancel his stupid plan and to never underestimate Chaka. It was lucky for him to get away from trouble. 24, but nobody knew what would happen to him next. No one can survive Chaka's pursuit, unfortunately, even though Marv has been warned, he seemed to not care about it at all. During the day, Marv met Eric, who was eating at the restaurant. Knowing that Eric had been in prison before, Marv offered him a job to help him rob his boss's bar tomorrow at 2 p.m. They would definitely be rich if they succeeded. Hearing the tempting offer, Eric agreed with it without any hesitation. Marv warned him to stay focused on carrying out the robbery plan and not to mess around with Bob, since he considered him a dangerous person. The next day, Eric sneaked into Nadia's house. Not long after, when Nadia got home, she was surprised to see her ex-boyfriend inside her house. At first, Eric was nice to her. He just wanted to say that he was still in love with her and wanted her back. She kept telling Eric to go away and made him angry. He forced her to come with him to the bar where Bob worked and told him that they were back together so he would leave them alone. Bob was surprised to see Nadia and Eric together, but couldn't bother since he had so much to do. He had to serve the patrons as well as took care of the money laundering transaction. Bob tried to hold back his anger, seeing Eric, who kept teasing Nadia. Eric then approached Bob and told him that he and Nadia are officially back together. Bob pretended not to care about it. On the other hand, Marv waited across the bar for the money laundering transaction to finish. Hours passed when the bar was about to close. Eric went out to call Marv. Nadia then explained that she was forced to obey Eric and was threatened with death if she refused. When Eric returned, Bob gave the ransom. Eric was asking for the whole week, but instead Eric told Bob to give all of Chaka's money that was in the safe while threatening him with a gun. Strangely, Bob wasn't afraid at all. He looked so calm and casually started to tell his dark past as a ruthless mafia. His innocent look now was his penance to his sins. In the past, every week he diligently attended the church to repent and to be a better man. Bob felt sorry for Eric. Instead of taking all the ransom money, he tried to wake up the sleeping beast inside of Bob. He was shot to death. Seeing the man that she loved killed someone right in front of her eyes, Nadia was shocked. Bob tried to explain everything and asked her to go home. Turned out Chaka already knew Marv's robbery plan all this time and asked one of his lads to kill Marv. While waiting for Eric to come out of the bar, the man shot Marv on the spot and they'll pay you a ticket too. After cleaning up Eric's dead body, Bob contemplated all he had done since the shooting incident. Bob had never seen Nadia again. Even though Chaka had completely promoted Bob as the manager of the bar to replace Marv, it didn't make him happy. Every time he washed his hands, he felt the guilt crawling inside him, hurting his heart even more. One day he couldn't hold his feeling any longer. He visited Nadia because he missed her so much. He asked her to have a walk with him and Rocco. He told her to choose to go inside and prepare herself to walk with him or stay inside and never came back. She went inside her house without saying a word. Seeing the woman he loved walk away, Bob felt heartbroken. He was afraid that Nadia wouldn't come back and that means he had to leave her forever. Bob waited there, standing still, until finally the sound of Nadia's shoes is heard.